Welcome to NSG 315 Study Session 7. We're talking about anatomic and physiologic overview of respiratory system. Introduction. The respiratory system is a biological system consisting of specific organs and structures used for the process of respiration in man. The respiratory system is involved in the intake and exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between man and his environment. Respiration takes place in the respiratory organs called lungs. In this study session, you'll be learning about the anatomic and physiology of respiratory system. Learning outcomes for study session 7. At the end of this study session, you should be able to 1. Explain the anatomy of the respiratory system, and secondly, highlight the functions of the respiratory system. Anatomy of the respiratory system. The respiratory system is composed of the upper and lower respiratory tract. Together, the two tracts are responsible for ventilation, that is, movement of air in and out of the airway. The upper respiratory tract warms and filters inspired air so that the lower respiratory tract can accomplish gas exchange or diffusion. Upper respiratory tract. Upper airway structures consist of the nose, the paranasal sinuses, pharynx, tonsils and adenoids, larynx and trachea. Nose. The nose serves as a passage for air to pass to and from the lungs. It filters impurities and humidifies and warms the air as it is inhaled. The nose is composed of the external and internal portion. The external portion protrudes from the face and is supported by nasal bones and cartilage. The inner portion of the nose is a hollow cavity separated into the right and left nasal cavities by a narrow vertical divider, the septum. Lower respiratory tract. The lower respiratory tract consists of the lungs, which contain the bronchial and alveolar structures needed for gas exchange. Lungs. The lungs are paired elastic structures enclosed in the thoracic cage, which is an airtight chamber with distensible walls. Each lung is divided into lobes. The diagram below is that of the respiratory system. Functions of the respiratory system. The cells of the body derive the energy they need from the oxidation of carbohydrates, fat, and protein. These processes requires oxygen. The respiratory system facilitates life-sustaining processes such as oxygen transport, respiration, ventilation, and gas exchange. Respiration. After tissue capillary exchanges, blood enters the systemic venous circulation and travels to the pulmonary circulation. Movement of air in and out of the airway continually replenish the oxygen and removes the carbon dioxide from the airways and lungs. This whole process of gas exchange between the atmosphere air and the blood, and between the blood and the cells of the body, is called respiration. Ventilation. Ventilation requires movement of the walls of the thoracic cage and of its floor, that is the diaphragm. The effect of this movement is alternately to increase and decrease the capacity of the chest. Pulmonary diffusion and perfusion. Talking about pulmonary diffusion is the process by which oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration at the air-blood interface. The alveoli capillary membrane is ideal for diffusion because of its thinness and large surface area. Pulmonary perfusion is the actual blood flow from the pulmonary vasculature. The blood is pumped into the lungs by the right ventricle through the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery divides into the right and left branches to supply both lungs. The pulmonary circulation is considered a low pressure system because the systolic blood pressure in the pulmonary artery is 20 to 30 mm of mercury and the diastolic pressure is 5 to 15 mm of mercury. Because of these low pressures, the pulmonary vasculature normally varies its capacity to accommodate the blood flow it receives. Ventilation and perfusion and imbalance. Adequate gas exchange depends on an adequate ventilation perfusion, that is VQ ratio. In different areas of the lung, the VQ ratio varies. Airway blockages, local changes in compliance, and gravity may alter ventilation. Alteration in perfusion occur with a change in pulmonary artery pressure, alveoli pressure, or gravity. VQ imbalance occurs as a result of inadequate ventilation, adequate perfusion, or both. Carbon dioxide transport. At the same time that oxygen diffuses from the blood into the tissues, carbon dioxide diffuses from tissue to the blood and is transported to the lungs for excretion. The amount of carbon dioxide in transit is one of the major determinants of the acid-base balance of the body. Neurologic control of ventilation. Resting respiration is the result of cyclic excitation of the respiratory muscle by the phrenic nerve. The rhythm of breathing is controlled by respiratory centers in the brain. Summary of study session 7. In this study session, you've learned the following. 1. Respiratory system is composed of the upper and lower respiratory tracts. Together, the two tracts are responsible for ventilation, that is, movement of air in and out of the airway. The upper respiratory tract warms and filters inspired air so that the lower respiratory tract can accomplish gas exchange or diffusion. Number 2, the cells of the body derive the energy they need from the oxidation of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. This process requires oxygen. The respiratory system facilitates life-sustaining processes such as oxygen transport, respiration, ventilation, and gas exchange. Thank you. We've come to the end of this study session.